Right now, your livestock are completely dependent on synthetic dewormers, and those dewormers are quietly failing. Parasites are mutating faster than pharmaceutical companies can keep up with. What used to wipe out a worm load in 48 hours is now barely making a dent. And every year, you pour more money into a system that's losing the battle. But here's what the big supplement companies don't want you thinking about. Your pasture can do this job better, for free, if you plant the right 6 perennial herbs. Today, I'm showing you exactly which plants, exactly where to put them, and exactly how to use rotational grazing to eradicate parasite cycles permanently. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth that most farming channels aren't talking about. In 2026, anthelmintic resistance, that's a scientific term for parasites becoming immune to dewormers, has reached a critical threshold on small and mid-sized farms across North America, the UK, and Australia. The same benzimidazoles and macrocyclic lactones that worked reliably for decades are now showing resistance rates above 80% in some sheep and goat populations. What does that mean for you practically? It means you're dosing your animals, stressing them out, spending the money, and the parasites are laughing. The worm burden isn't dropping. And as you increase dosage trying to compensate, you're accelerating the resistance even faster. It's a pharmaceutical treadmill, and the speed keeps going up. Now lay on the cost side of this problem. The average small farm running 50 head of mixed livestock spent between $800 and $1,400 on deworming products last year. That number is projected to climb another 12 to 18% in the next 24 months as pharmaceutical input costs rise and manufacturers reformulate to fight resistance. For a small operation running on tight margins, that's a difference between profit and loss. And here's a critical mindset shift I need you to make before we go any further. Chemical deworming is reactive. We're about to talk about something proactive. Instead of chasing parasite populations after they've already exploded inside your animals, we're going to build a living biological defense system directly into your pasture. One that works around the clock, self-replenishes every season, and costs you almost nothing after the initial planting investment. Now I want to introduce you to the 3 heavy hitters, the plants that form the biochemical backbone of your living pharmacy. First, Artemisia absinthium, common wormwood. This isn't just a plant with a dramatic name. Wormwood contains a compound called thujone, a bicyclic monoterpene that directly disrupts the nervous system function of intestinal parasites. When your livestock browse wormwood, the thujone enters a digestive tract and creates an inhospitable chemical environment that paralyzes the muscle contractions parasites use to anchor themselves to intestinal walls. They lose their grip. They get expelled. What makes this remarkable from a resistance standpoint is the mechanism. Synthetic dewormers work on 1 or 2 receptor pathways, which is exactly why resistance develops. Parasites evolve to root around those specific pathways. Thujone and the other terpenes in wormwood work across multiple biological systems simultaneously. There's no single mutation that lets a parasite ignore it. Second, Tanacetum vulgare, Tansy. Tansy shares thujone as an active compound, but delivers it alongside camphor and borneol, additional terpenoids with their own antiparasitic properties. Think of Tansy as wormwood's more aggressive cousin. It's particularly effective against liver flukes and tapeworm segments, which are the parasite types that synthetic dewormers struggle with most in high-humidity grazing environments. Important note on both of these, they are dose-regulating plants. Your animals, given the choice, will self-medicate, eating just enough to treat themselves without overconsumption. This is called zoopharmacognosy, and we'll talk about how to design your pasture to leverage it. Don't force-feed these. Let the animals choose. Third, Allium sativum, garlic. Garlic operates on an entirely different mechanism. The sulfur compounds, primarily allicin and its breakdown derivatives, are absorbed into the bloodstream and alter the blood chemistry and scent profile of your animals in ways that repel both external parasites like flies and lice and internal ones. Garlic also functions as an immune system amplifier. It increases white blood cell activity and stimulates the gut microbiome in ways that make the intestinal environment more hostile to larval establishment. When larvae try to migrate through gut tissue, they are fighting a host that's biochemically primed to reject them. These 3 are your foundation. We'll cover the remaining 3 perennials in your full 6-plant system as we build out the pasture design right now. Knowing which plants to use is only half the equation. Where you put them and how you integrate them into your grazing system determines whether this actually works at scale. Let's start with the 3 additional perennials that complete your 6-plant system. Number 4 is Chicory, Cichorium intybus. This one has the most peer-reviewed research behind it for livestock parasite control. Chicory contains condensed tannins and sesquiterpene lactones that directly impair the development of parasite larvae in the gut. It's also a deep tap-rooted plant that pulls mineral from subsoil layers, making it a nutritional powerhouse alongside its anthelmintic properties. It thrives in graze zones and handles heavy traffic well. Number 5. Birdsfoot trefoil, Lotus corniculatus. Another high-condensed tannin plant. The tannins in birdsfoot trefoil bind to proteins in the parasite's gut environment and significantly reduce the egg output of adult female worms, which is your key to breaking the reinfection cycle in your soil. Fewer egg shed means fewer larvae developing, which means collapsing parasite population over successive grazing seasons. Number 6. Sainfoin, Onobrychis viciifolia. Sainfoin is the aristocrat of the group, a beautiful flowering legume that combines the nitrogen-fixing benefits of a legume with extremely high condensed tannin concentrations. Studies out of the UK and Switzerland have shown Sainfoin to reduce parasite egg counts by 30 to 50% in sheep when incorporated as a significant portion of the diet. It's particularly effective in the spring, which coincides with the highest parasite pressure periods in most climates. Now, placement strategy. The goal is not to replace your pasture grass with these plants. It's to create forage pharmacy strips, integrated plantings that animal can access freely and choose from based on their internal needs. Here's the practical layout. Establish your Wormwood and Tansy in permanent hedgerow corridors along paddock boundaries or lane edges. These are not grazed aggressively, they are browsed selectively. Your animals will graze past them regularly and take what they need. Keep these strips narrow, around 18 to 24 inches wide, so they're accessible but not dominant. Your Chicory, Birdsfoot trefoil, and Sainfoin go directly into the pasture sward as a mixed sowing. These are fully grazable and can comprise 20 to 40% of your total forage mix without any issues. In fact, the more of these you can get established in your paddocks, the faster your parasite pressure drops. Garlic can be grown in small dedicated plots near your rotational entry points. Animals passing through will naturally investigate and self-dose. You can also add dried garlic to mineral licks as a bridge strategy while your pasture plants establish. The critical design principle is choice. These plants work best when animals have autonomous access, not when they are forced. A pasture designed for self-medication produces better results than any forced supplementation protocol. The plants do the biochemical heavy lifting. But your grazing strategy is what turns a good result into a great one, and it's what breaks a parasite life cycle permanently rather than just suppressing it temporarily. Here's the parasitology you need to understand. The most infectious stage of Barber's poleworm and most common gastrointestinal nematodes is the L3 larval stage, which develops on the pasture from egg-shedding manure. Under warm, moist conditions, this development takes 5 to 14 days. And here's the key. L3 larvae migrate onto the bottom 2 to 3 inches of grass blades to be ingested. They don't move far, and they can't survive desiccation or prolonged UV exposure. This tells you exactly what your grazing strategy needs to do. Move animals away from contaminated areas before L3 larvae develop, and keep them away long enough for larvae to die off naturally. High density, short duration rotational grazing achieves this precisely. Move your herd into a paddock for 1 to 3 days maximum. Graze it hard, then move on. Leave that paddock resting for a minimum of 60 days during parasite peak season. During that rest period, sun exposure, temperature extremes, and competing soil biology destroy the vast majority of larvae before your animals return. Now lay your botanical timing onto this. Your Chicory and Sainfoin will be at peak tannin concentration during spring flush growth, which is exactly when parasite pressure spikes post-lambing or post-kidding. Graze those high tannin paddocks preferentially during your highest risk periods. Wormwood and Tansy reach peak thujone concentration in late summer, just before heading into seed. This coincides with the second seasonal parasite pressure peak in most temperate climates. Your hedge strips are naturally delivering maximum potency exactly when you need it most. The biology aligns with your management calendar. That's not a coincidence. It's a pasture doing what it was designed to do. One additional technique. Avoid morning grazing in heavily contaminated paddocks during warm, humid periods. Larvae are most active and most concentrated on the grass surface in morning dewfall. Afternoon grazing in those paddocks significantly reduces intake of infective stages. Simple management change, meaningful reduction in worm burden. Let's talk money. Because ultimately, farming is a business, and the business case of botanical deworming systems is overwhelming. Let's model a modest 50-head sheep operation. Current annual chemical deworming cost, approximately $900 to $1,200 including product, labor, and equipment. That number recurs every single year, and it's trending upward. Now let's model the botanical approach. Initial pasture establishment for your 6-plant system across a 10-acre operation. Seed costs roughly $180 to $300. Labor for strip seeding and hedge establishment, 1 to 2 days. Year 1. You may still supplement with chemical dewormers at reduced frequency, perhaps 1 or 2 targeted treatments for high-risk animals. By year 2, most farms report a 60 to 80% reduction in chemical dewormer use. By year 3, many operations have eliminated scheduled chemical treatment entirely, using it only as a true emergency intervention. That's a payback period measured in months, not years. And every year after that, you're banking the difference. But here's where it gets more interesting for 2026 market positioning. The regeneratively raised livestock product category is experiencing significant premium expansion. Certified regenerative wool is now commanding 15 to 28% premiums over conventional product in specialty markets. Meat from chemical-free, botanically managed herds is qualifying for premium certifications that translate directly to higher per-unit returns at farmers' markets, direct-to-consumer channels, and specialty processors. There's also the fleece quality dimension. Repeated chemical dewormer exposure has been correlated in multiple studies with elevated cortisol markers and micronutrient interference that can reduce fleece staple strength and diameter consistency. Animals managed through botanical and rotational systems consistently show improved fiber quality metrics, which means better sorting grades and better prices. You're not just cutting costs. You're building a premium product story, an animal welfare advantage, and a genuine competitive moat that your neighbors running conventional chemical programs can't replicate quickly. Here's the bottom line. The parasite problem isn't going away, but your dependence on synthetic solutions absolutely can. 6 perennial plants. A smart rotational system. 1 growing season to get established. And you've built a living biological defense system that will protect your herd, slash your overhead, and position your operation in the premium market segment for as long as you're farming. This isn't fringe science. It's botany meeting livestock management, and the data is clear. Now here's something I need you to understand before you close this video. The growers who are winning right now, the ones cutting their input costs, commanding premium prices, and building herds that are genuinely resistant to the parasite crisis, they are not stumbling onto this information by accident. They are subscribed to Livestock Labs. Every week, this channel publishes a kind of data-backed, field-tested strategies that most farming content completely ignores. Botanical deworming is just a beginning. We're covering soil mineral management, natural fly control, chemical-free parasite monitoring, and the full regenerative livestock playbook, all of it free every single week. While your neighbors are still paying top dollar for dewormers that are losing their effectiveness, Livestock Lab subscribers are already 2 steps ahead. They already know what's coming next season. They already have the systems in place. If you're not subscribed yet, you're leaving that advantage on the table. Hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video in this series. The growers who act on this information first are the ones who will own the premium market in the next 3 years. Don't be the last one to the pasture. I'll see you in the next one.